was there any incidences that I've heard from other conversations you've had about potentially people seeing spirits or witches or ghosts?
Yeah, man. And this is a weird story. I don't know what to think of it. For me, it's still a big question mark. But a lot of my expeditions, I'm able to answer most weird stuff that happens with good logical answers, with a good logical decision of this is what it is or that's what it is. But after all of my travels, and I knew before I set off for these travels at age 19, I knew that there would be shit that I face that will simply be unexplainable. And there's 3 stories really that stand out. And the story that you're mentioning is one with a witch, one that involves a witch or bad spirit, however you want to choose to describe it. The Malagasy call it a witch. And this one night we were hiking through the interior of the island. We were deep in the depths of the jungle up north, sort of following the central ridge, mountain range of Madagascar. And we had a map and we also had GPS. And we had gone days without seeing any other community. And the map and GPS suggested that we won't come across another community for at least another few days. But randomly one evening, we did come across a community that wasn't on the GPS and wasn't on the map. They weren't supposed to be there. So we were like, fucking hell, okay, this is great. And I remember that night, it was super eerie because it was misty in the jungle. I remember it being full moon, but it wasn't creepy. It was just like, wow, this is beautiful, clear sky. And we rocked up and they invited us in. They were very hospitable, super welcoming. They gave us a little wooden shack, like a little wooden hut where we laid down our sleeping mats next to each other. There was the 4 of us, and then there was Gertrude next to Max. We still had Gertrude at this point. And my story is I woke up randomly in the middle of the night from sleeping and saw Max walking into the hut with a fucking machete in hand, out of breath. I could see the steam from his breath. And I said, you're right. And he was like, yeah, you're all good. Go back to sleep. And then that was it. And then I went back to sleep. That's my take. His take, he woke up in the middle of the night to movements and noises. And he looked to his right and there was Suzanne, me and Leva sleeping on our sleeper mats to his right. And we were all convulsing in our sleeps. We were all shaking apparently, and he was calling us and we didn't wake. He looked towards the door, and this door was made up of wooden planks, so it had gaps with the moon shining a silhouette through the door. And he saw a figure on the other side of that door, and he shouted like, oi, in Malagasy, whatever that is, hey. And this thing wouldn't budge, so he got up, grabbed his machete, and walked towards the door, and this thing, what he claims to be a witch, did a little giggle, ran off, and he burst out of that shack, ran after the witch. And he's a fit guy, he's strong, good endurance, fast as well. And this thing outran him, that as soon as they got to the jungle, the entrance of the jungle, she vanished. She just gone. No noises, no movements, just gone. Completely outran him. And then he came back and he says, you had all stopped convulsing. And you, Ash, woke up and asked if I was okay. And I said, go back to sleep. And I remember having a bad dream that night. I don't remember the dream, but Leva and Suzanne said they also had pretty disturbing dreams. We didn't sleep easy that night. And I was like, what the fuck? Well, why weren't you convulsing? Why didn't she have you? I was kind of taking the piss laughing at this point. And he said, because Gertrude was right next to him. Gertrude was sleeping. I was just like, oh, fuck. Anyway, we're pretty freaked. I'm kind of like rubbish, but like I do remember him coming back in out of breath. And we'd all had, pretty dodgy sleeps, but we then will have a breakfast with the community. They gathered around the fire outside that community and they all started sharing their witch stories. They all had their unique experience of something that keeps coming into their community from the jungle and disturbing them. And they were saying it like it is legitimate, genuine thing. Like there's a local wolf that comes by and disrupts the herd that you have to keep chasing off. And I was like, what the fuck? Where do they get the story of the witch? Where do they get the story that you have to carry a white chicken? And why are there so many people who aren't laughing at this like I am, like Suzanne is? Suzanne comes from Brazil. She's half Belgian, half Brazilian. And me and her were sort of giggling at first, but then she became freaked out. She never again slept a single night on her own. She stayed in the same tent as Max and Leva. and I had my own tent. But she was so freaked out. That was it. And I don't have an explanation for it. I don't believe in that stuff. Maybe I believe that there's maybe something else going on. What? But who am I to sit there and judge them for what they've experienced? So I'm kind of like, look, so that's a big question mark.